All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks you for joining us this morning for our adult Sunday school class. This morning, we have Pastor Tim Seitz-Brown with us. And the way that I connected with Tim is actually a funny story, because years ago when Ashley was a teacher at Spring Grove, my estimation is this is about 10 years ago, Tim would come into her classroom and just kind of wanted to help, and was kind of an extra set of hands. And Ash was like, "You got to meet this guy!" Like, he just wanted to help out and came in, and so we got to know Tim through that. And over the years, we've connected in a couple different ways, virtually. But I reached out to Tim to see if he would be interested in helping with our adult Sunday school class, if he had something worthwhile sharing. And he mentioned how he's been doing a lot of work with the Poor People's Campaign. And we thought that that would be a great topic to talk about this morning. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show a quick clip. It's about a 2-minute video. And then we are going to kick things over to Tim. So let me share my screen here. And here we go.
I'm trying to figure out this whole thing with Jesus, and he said, the poor you will always have with you. What are you making of that?
We wouldn't have poor if it wasn't for people not doing the things they need to do so there wasn't poor. We have poor because people are not willing to make the sacrifice so that there isn't poor. They're not willing to do the things to make changes so that people aren't poor.
So Jesus wasn't just saying, oh, well, that's just the way it is. He wasn't saying that.
No, he was not. He was saying that as long as you don't do the things that are necessary, that are right by me, you will always have the poor. You are the reason we have the poor, because you will not take the responsibility of being, as he said, I am my brother's keeper. No greater love have I ever given than to lay down my life. And every day that we don't do that, we're putting a nail back in Christ's hand and laying the thorns on his head, because you're not following his commandment. No greater love, no other commandment greater than that.
Because he couldn't be blowing it off after he just told a story about the sheep and the goats, and he said, when you feed the poor, when you clothe the naked, and that you're doing it to me.
Right.
So he can't be blowing off the poor then.
No, he's not. Because, he's been in our shoes. And he's seen what it's like for us to struggle because people are not willing. And that's why he said what he said about it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than it is for a rich man to go through the gates of heaven. Because he holds on to that which is, to him, more profitable and more, for him, needy. But the need he needs is God.
So I'm going to just say the word of the Lord, thanks be to God, and thank you, my brother.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. Pastor Tim.
Yeah, so thanks for sharing that. Blessed Palm Sunday to everybody. As Jason said, I'm Tim Seitz-Brown, and I've been a Lutheran pastor since 1987. Before that, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Jamaica, and I've had served in Easton, Ephrata, Thomasville, Pennsylvania, Biglerville, and then most recently in the city in Lancaster. But I've been active with like peace things, done Christian peacemaker teams to Iraqi Kurdistan, married, have 3 adult kids, and it's really great to be with all of you this morning. And I wanted to open up with just to share that that was my friend Leon Tyre, and we were at the state capitol, and we got to talking one time, and he shared some of his insights. And I just wanted to share that it's different when you who you read the Bible with, matters a lot. And so Leon is an amazing human being from Philadelphia. He's a part of, I'll tell you later, ACT UP and some other groups. But I just wanted to make that to be like a little bit of an introduction. So can I share screen, Jason? Looks like I can.
Yes, you should be able to.
All right, here we go. And you all can see this.
Yes, we can. Looks great.
Right. So I'm here to talk about the Poor People's Campaign. And the roots of that go back to 1967. We just celebrated the anniversary of Dr. King's Beyond Vietnam speech, where he was moving beyond his civil rights to talking about the interlocking moral evils of poverty, racism, and militarism. And he gave that speech on August 4th, 1967, and then he was killed on that exact date 1 year later. And he was in the process of organizing a Poor People's Campaign to go to Washington. And Coretta Scott King, a couple of her quotes from that time said, "Starving a child is violence, not having health care is violence, not having a home is violence, not letting people vote is violence." And so this is one of our Poor People's Campaign posters that kind of highlights some of those quotes. And what we believe is that there's an interconnection among all of these things. So more than 50 years ago, those were the three moral evils that we were fighting: poverty, racism, and militarism, which are still alive and well today. But then we've added ecological devastation as a fourth moral evil, and then the moral evil of the distorted moral narrative of religious nationalism. And so, so there I put it on the screen just so you can see that. And since it's recorded, you can go back and look at that later. But those were the five things that we were resisting. And I wanted to open up with inviting you to join me in Washington this June 18th, 2022. For a mass Poor People's and Low Wage Workers Assembly and Moral March on Washington and to the polls. Originally, we were planning to do this on June 20th, 2020, in between the primaries and the political conventions to change the moral narrative of the election. But as we all know, there was a pandemic, so we had to do that virtually. And so we're hoping to do this June what we were hoping to do 2 years ago. And it's saying that we have to do more. We have to mobilize and organize, register people to vote, and then educate for a movement that votes. And by the way, now that we're in this world, if you can't be in Washington, D.C. that day, that will be live streamed, but we are hoping to get at least 30,000 people from Pennsylvania to be as a part of the gathering in DC. Then in just a couple of weeks, the Reverend Dr. William Barber and the Reverend Dr. Liz Theo-Harris will be making a stop in Philadelphia, and that's going to be on April 25th. And the last that I heard on Friday, we didn't have a specific venue, or one venue fell through because it wasn't accessible for Dr. Barber, but it's going to be somewhere in downtown Philadelphia that April 25th evening. And I really encourage you to come to both of those things because there's a lot of energy. It's very inspiring. You meet people, and it's a great way to get organized. So with all of that, Prior to the pandemic, there were 140 million poor and low income people in the United States. And that's defined as, having only $400 in your bank account or one financial emergency away from a crisis. And remember, this is like before the pandemic, we had a audit that we did of the country. And in that audit, 43% of Americans are like that close to the edge or already underwater, and it includes 52% of children. We also have state fact sheets that tell us, for example, I know 1 out of 8 children in Pennsylvania go to bed hungry every night. And if you look in this slide, it looks like we have in Pennsylvania 4.7 million, and this would have been back in 2018, that are in poverty in our Commonwealth. So it's a spiritual movement, and we're rooted in that biblical call to Jubilee that we hear in Leviticus 25. And then Jesus in his first sermon in Nazareth in Luke chapter 4 declares Jubilee. And as a Lutheran pastor, I pray regularly, give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive those indebted to us. That we believe that that these interlocking evils, we have to address them, and we have to lift from the bottom. And when we lift from the bottom, everybody rises. And so I'm going to be sharing about Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, how we do this is that we have the national campaign, but then every state is invited to have a statewide campaign where we deal with issues in the state, because a lot of things are very local to each state. So it's not just on the federal or national level that we need to be resisting these things. So when I was there with Leon that one particular day, we were dealing with March on Harrisburg and pro-democracy issues. And we see ourselves as a moral fusion movement, which means that put people first, which is healthcare as a human right group, stands up for the movement of immigrant leaders in Pennsylvania that they're advocating right now. And we have a lobby day coming up on April 26th at the state capitol that we want to have driver's licenses for all. And so we have these different groups that are here. The one that I'm particularly active is both the movement of immigrant leaders in Pennsylvania and the one down below, March on Harrisburg, the pro-democracy group. And that's where a lot of what I'll be sharing about today. But by moral fusion, what we mean is that the poverty people stand up for the militarism people, who stand up for the ecological devastation. We cross over, that we see all of these issues as interconnected, and that we can't just be in our one issue silos. We have to really deal with all of these together. So this morning, I'm going to just share all of these different groups that I showed you from Pennsylvania make up our state coordinating committee. So one key group, as I mentioned, was Put People First. Another key group is what's called March on Harrisburg. And March on Harrisburg is particularly concerned because we in Pennsylvania are the 5th most corrupt state. And later on, I'll have a slide going back to a Senator Boise Penrose, who's actually on the state capitol. So he was a person that said, hey, you lobbyists, you give us the money so we get elected, then we pass laws that you make more money so that you can give us more money so that we can be elected again. and it kind of goes like that. And so the voice of people in Pennsylvania, what we're hoping for is that people like Leon are welcomed into the office and listened to, and not just the people that can afford to pay. So right now, we are going for the lowest hanging fruit, which is to ban bribery in Pennsylvania. A few years ago, they got rid of emergency assistance for people in our Commonwealth, which was $200 a month. Meanwhile, they were getting wined and dined with fancy, expensive dinners that were often more than $200. And Eagles tickets, Penn State tickets, Steelers tickets, Super Bowl tickets. We have a legislator going to the Bahamas with the lawyers, Beyonce tickets. Anything of value that people give, we want to really bring that down to something that's like less than $10 and no more than $250 in a year. There's a parking garage right across from the Capitol, and some of the prime parking spots go to groups like Comcast and the healthcare industry and the horse racing industry. And what we're seeing is that there's a conflict of interest, that if you're taking somebody out to dinner, if you're buying them drinks, that has an influence on how they vote. And we even have, like, one legislator said, we wanted to do this gift ban bill, and he said, well, I can't do that because I have a mortgage to pay. So we really have a problem in Pennsylvania, because as you see at the bottom, we do not have a specific law limiting the amount of gift giving to our legislators at the state capitol. And we are one of 8 states that does not have a specific law basically banning bribery. So with March on Harrisburg, we do, how we work is that we do a lot of people-powered lobbying. So we have met with 251 out of the 253 legislators in the building. And the 2 that we didn't meet with, they didn't want to meet with us. And as I said, we're just working on this lowest hanging fruit to ban these excessive gifts that the lawmakers are receiving. And so we tried also different tactics. For example, camping outside their house. And then when they come to work in the morning, we had coffee and donuts, and we tried to bribe them. But what we wanted to really ask was, this should already be a law. This should have been a law years ago. Change our minds. So we have different levels of pressure. That the first thing that we do is the lobbying, and we invite them, to help co-sponsor the legislation and vote for it in committee and on the floor if we can ever get that far. So this past December 14th, we were at the Capitol, and we took Christmas carols and we made them into anti-corruption carols. And we went around and we sang at key legislative leader offices. So this is outside the office of Senator Jay Corman. And if you'll notice in the picture, we were not welcome to go inside the state senator's office. They had the police, and they blocked the door, and they said that we couldn't go in. And what we were hoping was just a minute with the legislator or anybody from the staff. And we had Candy Cole, and you saw Santa Claus in the picture. He was going to give Jay Corman, Nicole, for not passing the gift ban. And he would say, ho, 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 no quid pro quo. So we're trying to do things that illustrate the issue, that bring it to the surface, that keep it to our legislators' minds. And then here's my friend David Winger playing Santa, and you can see very clearly these they called the Capitol Police. They heard that we were arriving and they blocked the door. So what happens is we have a lot of support for the gift ban at the Capitol. And as I'll show you in a little bit, if it's never called to a committee vote or a floor vote, you can have as many co-sponsors as you want, but if it's never brought up for a vote, then nothing happens. We also were at the Hilton this Groundhog Day. They were having a big fundraiser, and we were outside and we tried to bring the humor based on the movie Groundhog Day. We had some of us dressed up as groundhogs. Other people were dressed up as the people that have Puxatawny Phil. And we said, are we going to just repeat this over and over again, that we can't trust our legislators, or are we going to establish a new day of trust? And by the way, the head of March on Harrisburg is Rabbi Michael Pollack. And so he, on Christmas, dressed up as an elf. Here he's dressed up for Groundhog Day. And what we've been saying to our legislators is that we've literally not met one person who's for bribery and for the corruption that's at the Capitol right now. And how this plays into the Poor People's Campaign is that the voices that are listened to in that building, there's 253 legislators. There are 253 registered fossil fuel lobbyists at the Capitol. And as we can see, some people are welcome. We were even trying to have a light approach with having David Wenger be Santa Claus and to bring the issue. And so there's people that walk into their offices and have appointments easily, and there's other voices that are not listened to. We are also known for doing nonviolent direct action in the Capitol. And so a few years ago, to deal with the issue, we had one group that was outside of the Capitol that did a protest that blocked one of the entrances. And that was the diversionary group that drew the Capitol Police over to that section of the building. And then that gave time for some of us to rain $1 bills from the balcony down onto the House floor. And I participated in that action. We threw the money. We chanted, "Pass the gift ban, stop taking bribes." We chanted, "Some are guilty, all are responsible," which means, there's some corrupt people, but we're all responsible for fixing it. And eventually the Capitol Police took us and arrested us and took us away. But we're, trying to make the issue clear. That quote, "Some are guilty, all are responsible," comes from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, that, in a free society, we all have a responsibility for the society that we have. And so we want to encourage people to be active participants at the state level in our democracy. Now, here is the thing. We have had 33 gift ban bills introduced over the past 20 years. And not one of those bills has ever been brought to the House floor or to the Senate floor. And that is because there are gatekeepers. My representative is Seth Grove, who chairs the State Government Committee in the House. And I also have Senator Kristen Phillips Hill. And when I meet with them to talk about this legislation, they tell me to be patient. The average bill takes 6 years from when it's introduced to its becoming law. And they try to do that as a way to say to me, be patient. This might not happen quickly. And what I've come back is we've had 20 years and 33 attempts to do this. Why are we not doing it? And I want to be clear that that means that sometimes Democrats have been in control, sometimes Republicans have been in control. This is a bipartisan issue. In 2019, we succeeded in the first step to have the gift ban passed in committee. We worked to get it for a floor vote. The pandemic hit, the bill died. Every time there's a new legislator, every 2 years, there's a vote for people in the House. You start from ground zero again. So we went to ground zero again. And we, again, in 2021, got a gift ban passed. It's not perfect. There's a lot of things that need in there to be strengthened. But we got it to that very first step, which is to pass in the committee. What has to happen next is that the majority leader has to call a vote. So I'm going to have some slides where we are pressuring Majority Leader Carrie Benninghoff. And the process also has to be carried out in the Senate, and both, as we know, the House and the Senate both have to agree, and then the governor has to sign it into law. A few weeks ago, there was a Pennsylvania press club, and the majority leader was the speaker. And we let him start his little speech. And then these are some friends of mine that confronted him because he hasn't met with us in person. So he went, and interrupted in a nonviolent manner and had this banner, "Why is lawmaker bribery still legal?" And that banner lasted about 30 seconds. And this is a lobbyist who works with the Philadelphia billionaire, Jeffrey Yass. He gets angry, starts doing different F-bombs and rips the sign down. And the tall person in the front right corner, his name is Reed. He was like asking, Representative Benninghoff, when are you going to call this for a vote? And now the press club, there's some press there, but actually it's a lot of lobbyists there. So there was like a lot of booing and hissing and telling us that we weren't doing things the right way. The trouble is we've been trying to do the right way for 20 years. We've met with everyone in their office. So we're trying to bring a different level of pressure in the spirit of Dr. King. A few weeks earlier, I was part of another action that we interrupted. The majority leader was doing a fundraiser, was only $1,000 a plate for breakfast at the Hilton. I was wearing my clergy collar and we went in. We didn't pay the $1,000 And then we went right to the majority leader and said to him, when are you going to call this for a vote? And he got upset, and some of his lobbyist friends got upset. And because I was wearing my clergy collar and looked like a Catholic priest, some of them started giving me the F-bomb and then saying to me that as a Catholic priest, how dare I, because we need to get our act together. And then my friends were saying, he's not a priest, he's Lutheran. What was ironic was at that breakfast, one of the first people at the breakfast was the Catholic Church's lobbyist. So I was being attacked. I was being given the F-bomb by a person that said that he was a Catholic, but yet the reason why we have not held priests in Pennsylvania accountable is because of this lobbying firm protecting the coffers of the Catholic Church. So you can see since 2011, they've spent $5.3 million on lobbying, fighting bills that would get rid of the statute of limitations. And you see some of the statistics there: 301 predator priests, over 1,000 children, over 6 dioceses. So we're trying to bring the pressure. Here's another action that we did on the Capitol steps as a part of a press conference. And we wanted to broadcast, to the entire state that we have failed to do this one particular basic legislation that would help us to be more democratic for the past 20 years. So I took a photo of this senator from Pennsylvania who's well known in Pennsylvania history. We're known for our corruption. Boise's Penrose. He says, "I believe in the division of labor. You send us to Congress, we pass the laws so that you can make more money. And from your profits, you give us more money to send us back so we can pass laws to help you to make more money." And you see he has his hand in his pocket. I don't know if he's just received cash or bribe. So all of this is to say, I'm just giving you one example of what's going on in Pennsylvania. And March on Harrisburg is probably one of the ones known for the nonviolent direct action. And it's because, and we get lots of lectures and people tell us that if we just did things the right way, that this would have all been passed a long time ago. But the truth is that they need to be made uncomfortable. They need to have the issue brought out in the open. We need to educate people so that this issue can be seen and dealt with. Obviously, the pandemic has had a big impact on poor and low-income people in Pennsylvania. Across the country, we just released from the Poor People's Campaign that in the 300 counties with the highest death rates, they had a poverty rate of 45%. What I care about was that Leon is not welcome into many of the legislative offices. The people with the money, the lobbyists with the money, they're welcome. So it's like, whose voice is getting listened to? We would like it to be the golden rule: love thy neighbor as you love thyself, rather than the current golden rule, which is the one who has the gold makes the rules. My work with the Poor People's Campaign, we're trying to change whose voice is being heard. So people like Leon and other friends that are experiencing the struggles of our messed up system. We're wanting their stories to be heard, that it's not just a statistic that 1 out of 8 children in Pennsylvania go to bed hungry every night, but that there's a face to that and there's a story behind that. But for that to happen, we need to have access. Our legislators need to listen to the people. I'm coming to the end of the slides here. I was just hoping that this would stimulate some conversation, but this pandemic has really hit the poor and low income siblings among us. They were hit the first and they were hit the hardest. And before the pandemic, we called many of them social service or service workers. Since the pandemic, we're seeing how important they are. We're now calling them essential workers. And what we want is for every essential worker to be treated with full dignity. So that is the end of the slideshow, seeing how my time went. Thank you for your patience. I was hoping that you could feel the passion and the excitement that I have, and I'm happy to welcome any questions or comments or reactions or anything.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for walking us through that slideshow. If anyone has any specific questions, you can feel free to unmute yourself or enter those questions into the chat.
I see that there's 22 participants on this screen. Would any of you care to join us on April 25th or June 18th?
I'm just learning. I get the emails and I hadn't thought about the 25th, but I happen to have that day off. I might be interested.
Awesome.
Yeah, and my daughter actually mentioned it first. She said, "Can we go to Philadelphia?"
Awesome.
I don't know. So, but we'll talk about it. But I was to several of the 7 Mondays they had in Harrisburg. I was to 4 or 5 of them when they, the first day of the first year they had the campaign here in Pennsylvania.
The launch in 2018.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I went down to several of those on the Mondays I had off. Normally my days off are Sunday, Monday. So, yeah. Whereas a lot of people work Monday through Friday and weren't able to go. So, but I hope to get some participating in. So that's a possibility. We have an environmental committee too, a climate change committee that are working with the Earth to E-Town Day here. And we have a group going down there. And so we're trying to be busy around some things.
Yeah, so with the climate change, there's 2 groups in Pennsylvania that are a part of our campaign. One is the Better Path Coalition, and the other is something Marcella Shale was on the one slide. But one of the things that we're concerned about is where we're doing fracking in Pennsylvania. There's a really skyrocketed number of rare childhood cancers in some of those areas as a result of the fracking. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a lobbyist for every single legislator in that building. And I think they have the #1. I can't remember if it's Comcast or UPMC or which group, but they have the prime parking spots over there. I see a question about the $5.3 million spent on lobbying for the church. Do I know how that money is spent? I'm guessing that is, paying for the lobbyists. I don't know any of the specific gifts, but as I think I mentioned that they have a lot of dinners that they go out to, with lobbyists, drinks. And I realized there's a slide I forgot that the legislators, the lobbyists have to report the gifts that they've given. And then the legislators, also should be saying what they receive. And I'll try to find the slide with the exact amounts, but it's a very, very small percentage that our legislators are being transparent in saying what they're giving. But I can find out more about the Catholic Church. But there's a lot of gift giving. So I don't know if I had mentioned this. This does not. I am completely responsible for my own actions, and this is not to reflect on anybody that may have invited me here. But I have now been banned from Majority Leader Benninghoff's office. 4 of us have been banned. Rabbi Michael that you saw in the picture, and 2 other of my friends. We were recorded the other day. We just wanted a 20-second meeting. We were willing to sit in his office all day for a quick meeting, and they're tired of us like sitting in their office waiting. So that's an example of trying to do it the right way. And now it's on camera that the lieutenant had his videographer and everything giving us the warning that if I put my foot in there, I will be charged with trespassing.
Sounds like good trouble, Tim.
It'd be good trouble. I don't know. So needless to say, I'm not used to receiving messages like that. So you have the climate change committee. Do you have other committees that are related to some of these issues, the 5 moral evils?
Just to change the subject, I'm willing to go on the 25th. Will there be carpools or a bus, or does everyone find their own way?
Oh, John, I think would be find our own way.
We may organize something.
We can organize. And like I said, I'll try to get that as soon as I know the location. I'll send that to you.
Tim, to answer your previous question, there is an active group working with immigration support, and we have in the past been really active with refugee resettlement in different ways. So I think those are different areas. You said you do work with MILPA.
Yeah, so I'll send you this information too, but we're planning to have a lobby day on April 26th at the state capitol for the driver's license for all. That could have been the other thing that I focused on. But yeah, are you familiar with them?
I am not very familiar with them. I've heard of them. I've heard of some of their work. No, but I know there's active work within our congregation locally, but I don't think we've had too many connections at the state level. But I have heard of MILPA, but I'm not, like I said, I'm not too familiar with their specific work.
So I will just tell you the value that I bring really wasn't so much the talk, is I'm kind of connected. So if you have like an immigration group, I know that MILPA would love to connect with people, you know, locally. And I know in Lancaster, we're going to be organizing, there's going to be like a Lancaster chapter of that coming up in the near future. So if there's any people that want to be a part of that, and it's great, the racial justice group, you know, that's, you know, playing in to this.
Yeah, and the immigration support group is also deals with racism, because we have this great welcoming of Ukrainians, but we really don't want people who aren't European white.
Right.
And we put all kinds of things in the way. So there's a lot, racism has a lot to do with our immigration policy. And our immigration group basically helps undocumented people in Northwest Lancaster County. And so that's basically what we focused on due to what funds we have, and we don't want to be working with people in far reaches of Dauphin County and the other side of Lancaster.
Mm-hmm. So MILPA is a part of the Driving Pennsylvania Forward Coalition, which is driver's license for all. It used to be that if you had a federal tax ID number, that you were eligible for getting a license. And then that changed back in 2002 in the aftermath of 9/11, and our fear that we had, you know, after those terrorist attacks. But that has a big impact on undocumented people, because any traffic stop, you know, at this point can, you know, start a chain of reaction of events lead to their deportation. So there's just like a lot of things within that. I found out through partnering with them that, you know, how much undocumented workers are a part of our economy. Like specifically 40% of our calories that make it to our table has some undocumented work that's happened through that. So if you took out that 40%, that would not, we're already having a hard time, you know, with labor and everything right now. So I encourage you to support MIPA too, but thank you for, sounds like I should go to your church because you have immigration and the racial justice and the climate
Welcome,
crisis.
Tim.
Yeah. Do you know Josiah Ludwig?
Yeah, and Drew Hart, I guess, from Harrisburg.
Yeah.
First. Yeah, have you done work with Josiah?
I know him through Dr. Hart and our global study that we have like every week. And then Dr. Hart has a book, Who Will Be a Witness? I don't know if you all are familiar with that one, but he was a part of that 2018 launch here in Harrisburg too.
Yeah. I think I really appreciate you taking the time today to speak to some of these things. Craig, did you have something you wanted to say?
I have a quick question if we have time.
We do. We're going to try and wrap up in a couple minutes, but we got time for your question.
I was wondering how much effect individual representatives can have on pushing the gatekeeper to bring these things to a vote. And also, if you know how many individual representatives' offices locally have been visited by constituents to push for that.
So the first one, if the legislator can push the gatekeepers, it's unclear to us whether, so they meet in caucus and that's in secret. And it could be that they don't have the support in the caucus, that like they can tell us face to face that they support anything, but then behind closed doors, they cannot really be supporting it, and the majority leader is not taking it for a vote because his caucus doesn't want him to vote on it. In terms of local constituents, I don't think there's a whole lot of people in Pennsylvania. I'd be really surprised if, like, for example, in Lancaster, I don't know who your representative and state senator would be, but part of why I'm coming here today is just to tell you, like, this one key component that's like, this is a pretty big piece, and I'm here to hopefully organize you as constituents to show up, so I can give that to, you know, that information to Jason.
Yeah, Ament. Yeah, thanks. Our Senator Ament is our local senator. I wonder if down in Lancaster, if it was Scott Martin for you guys, when it was when you
he's
were
another one. Yeah, he's another
when he was in 13. But our local rep is Hickernell.
Okay.
But I don't know their position on this, but it would not be surprising to find that this was not a priority for them. I'll put it that way. But
I hope I made it make sense why it matters.
Yeah.
That particular piece and why I did that today is that to reach all of our other goals, you know, there are big problems. We have to get our democracy right.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for being with us. Before we go, I'd like you to, if you can just offer us a couple parting words, some final thoughts for us to take with us as we go. That would be helpful for us to kind of process our time together. But if you had any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us, and we will wrap up and go.
Yeah, so the poor you will always have with you is in Deuteronomy 15. Therefore, you should always be generous to them. When Jesus says the poor you will always have with you, he was joining among the poor and identifying with the poor and being in solidarity with them. And I'm just hoping that as we begin Holy Week, that the Jesus who joined us in solidarity through his death on the cross, that we can join him on that journey through death into resurrection. And I give thanks to God for all of you. Amen.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you so much for being with us. Take care, everyone. You're welcome to join us for the live stream starting at 10:30. But remember, we will not be having adult Sunday school next week. So enjoy your Easter, and we'll see you here at church.
Peace, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tim.